Hello, everyone. This is Jane.
I'm Brandon.
I'm Flo.
I'm Sandy. Welcome to String Along. This is episode 8, and today we'll be talking about the things that we've learned in our youth. So, how was it like for you guys, like growing up? Have you guys like struggled with personal issues like self identity, stuff like that?
For me, I think, uh, just a little about my background. I was, born in France, so I wasn't really around Asians that often. So I got really used to hanging out with people, with non-Asian people. Um, and with that, at first, I was just kind of that was my norm, and I liked it. I was friends with everybody, um, which kind of helped me adapt to the fact that I didn't really have a group. I hung out with literally everybody, which meant the smart people, the people who were into Pokemon at that time, or Yu-Gi-Oh,
Yu-Gi-Oh.
marbles, girls.
So
I
the
was
nerds?
literally
I'm
well,
just
yeah.
kidding.
If you want to put it that way, I hung out with everybody, and I even hung out with people who were like the rebels, at that time that didn't care about classes and grades and didn't care about the professors or the teachers, words. Um, so I kind of didn't have an identity at that point. I think I was just roaming around. Um,
You're feeling how deep the pool is. You're just trying
right.
to get a feel.
I was testing the waters. I was just trying to see, I
Mm.
guess, my youth, like the environment. I realized that the environment I was in, or the environment, is very crucial to growth, I think. And because I was lucky to be in an environment that was very open for me, I believe to be very adaptable. Recruiters, job recruiters, I'm very
Me
adaptable
too.
to
Me too.
any.
Me too. Me
No, no,
too.
no, no. You'll get to hear him later. But for me, very adaptable.
I think I'm the most adaptable because okay, so I was born in Korea. I went to Japan. I went to Netherlands. I went to Japan. I went to Korea, and then I went back to Japan, and then moved to a different city in Japan.
Damn.
And then I moved back to Korea, and I moved to a different place in Korea. So I moved. I don't know if that was 9 times, but I moved 9 times in the first 10 years of my life. I lived in 4 different countries in my life, so very adaptable. That's definitely one thing I learned. But also, one thing I don't have is a childhood friend that I like before fourth grade. I don't have friends that I keep contact with because I was so
Mhm.
young and I was all over the place. So when people are like, "Oh, I've known her since I was 4," like I don't
Yeah.
have that.
Okay,
Mm.
wait. Question though. Childhood friend. I see childhood friend as like before 18 years old. Honestly speaking, I think.
I think it's more middle school than high school.
Okay.
For
Yeah.
our age
Because
right now.
when people say high school, they're just like, oh, high school friends. You know.
Yeah. Once you're in your
Mhm.
40s, you
Oh
say
yeah, it
childhood
is.
friends. It's 18 below. I think personally.
Smart
Even just
boy.
college friends, like, my mom's like, "Oh, my childhood friends," and they're all, like, college friends, so
Um, I pretty much was born in Singapore, but I immediately moved to Indonesia, and I pretty much grew up there until I was in high school. So I moved to the States when I was a sophomore year of high school. So that transition from a old fashioned, traditional family, you got to protect your image, sticking to family and, just pretty much not being, it's just different compared to here where you can just do what you want. And there's a lot of, what do you call it, culture backlash that
Mhm.
happened, especially when I moved to the States. It was crazy. I felt the culture shock. So that's
Mm-hmm.
why I'm very adaptive. Recruiters.
Did you guys ever wish you like were able to just stay in one place instead of like moving around so much?
No?
I'm so happy that
No.
I moved.
Yeah. It's actually, well, obviously I'm pretty sure for everyone, when you move to a different country or when you move even to a different city, Sandy, you will feel that loneliness or that, fear of, missing out. You're scared. You don't know what new challenges are gonna come up. But then again, if you see it in a different aspect, it's more of a you're gonna be open.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
I feel like everyone's gonna grow differently.
I can't really relate to you guys because I actually pretty much stayed in one place like all my childhood through high school. Like I stayed in Stockton So I had like a best friend. I still have a best friend who's from like second grade. And so we're just like, I don't know. I just think staying in one place is like a little bit more different than you guys, because you guys probably
Yeah.
like experienced like a lot of like different cultures, but I just kind of experienced the same like American conservative like town type of stuff.
But since we're talking about youth, it's like our childhood. Since I moved on from like different places, and I'm glad I moved from different places. I'm glad I didn't stick to one spot.
Yep.
I lived in France. I moved to South Korea, and then I went to the United States. So I love to tell people that I studied in three different continents. That's like my bragging
Ooh.
rights, right? But I think the best thing about this is I still have childhood friends that are based off elementary school, and that's thanks to my parents, right? Because my parents
Yeah.
kept in contact with their parents, then become their friends. So that their child is my friend now at this point, and we hung out every now and then. So we're still childhood friends, and we're still present. But the fact that we moved, or the fact that I moved, kind of opened up my mind. So I'm not gonna talk. I'm not gonna say what other countries think about the United States. But before I came to the U.S., I had a different perspective until when I came here, and then I had a different perspective on South Korea before I went to South Korea and lived there myself. So what other people talk about other countries is so totally different until you get to experience it, and so
Right.
that's the reason why I actually love the fact that I moved from places to places, because otherwise, all I would have gotten is what people say about those countries, and I would have never experienced it. So don't ever, stereotype things. Don't ever, listen to other
Don't
people.
believe that. Yeah.
Go
Don't believe
experience it
that.
yourself. Travel. I was just lucky and fortunate to do that, I guess.
So, what have you guys learned about yourself like while growing up, or like about others like during your youth? So, I mean, me personally, I feel like I had like a self identity type of crisis. I don't know if it's just me or if it pertains to like just growing up as a person. But I feel like because I was Asian in a community that where it was like not like a whole lot of Asians, like it was just like a diversity of people, right? And I always felt like as a kid, like I felt kind of ashamed of my like culture. And it was like whenever like there was like Chinese food I brought to school or something, I just felt awkward about it, and I didn't want people to know I brought like Chinese food to school or something. And just like I guess I felt ashamed that like my parents didn't speak English very well, and I know like we struggled with like trying to fit in with like everyone else. um and I think I had like a lot of insecurities about myself too, like just me being like super introverted. I had like a hard time like talking to people, and honestly all my extroverted friends, they just adopted me.
Mm.
um but yeah, like definitely growing up was not easy because I was afraid to speak out, and I just had so much anxiety as a kid that it like stopped me from doing all the things I enjoyed as a kid.
But now you're a very strong woman. You would speak about your thoughts with passion, and you'll fight any
I
boys that get in the way.
I have definitely learned to defend myself for sure. College was a learning experience.
Yeah, I cannot like imagine what Sandy felt because she was born in the US. So she is one of them. Like she can't really identify as someone outside of the country. Like I think it was a little easier for me to adapt to the new country was because I already accepted the fact that I'm different and that I am from a different country. So like for me, if I was bringing like Korean food or even Japanese food to my school, I would like brag about it. I'm like, "Have you guys seen this before?" kind of thing
Oh
where I
yeah, wait,
yeah.
yeah.
So I was never ashamed of like bringing Asian food. Like I knew I was different and I was like proud that I was different because I was fortunate enough to like go to a private school to start my education here and like 90%
Of the time.
Caucasians. Yeah. So it was a little easy. It was easier for me to adapt because they already saw me different, but I already accepted that I was
But
different.
but see, that's the beauty thing about perspective, because for me, I grew up with international friends in high school. So we would always talk about different things like, oh, have you seen this food before? And they're like, oh no, what is that? We'll make fun of each other, but then when we try it, we're like, oh shoot. And back then I never thought of identity. Like I always like disregard race. I feel like it's always like a good thing to meet a different, I guess a different ethnicity.
Mm.
So I remember going to Chinese class and then all these like Asian Americans that were born, they were speaking Chinese, they were having a hard time. And I was the only one who could speak Chinese better than most. And I was just like, oh, I was shocked, but I was willing to help and then they helped me. But yeah, I feel like that was crazy.
I didn't have any Asian friends until I went to middle school into South Korea. So actually, um, when I was in France, so when I was living until middle school, I was in France, and I was more comfortable with white people or non-Asian people in general. And then when my parents told me that I was gonna move to South Korea, I was so pissed. I was so sad. I was like, dude, I don't get along with Asians. I don't want to be with Asians. I'm actually more comfortable with non-Asians. And eventually that was my preconception of like what I could live life as, because I was so used to living in France, in a European country, and I adapted so well, and people were so welcoming to me. I just felt like I fit in so well. And then I moved into an Asian country, and I was like, dude, this is so different from what I'm used to. But just give it a couple, month, and then even a year or two, and then I got used to it, and I could relate to people more, and I got to enjoy it more, I guess, in some ways. But because of those two experiences, that's why I got to adapt pretty easily, to whatever it is, cultures. And it's not like I think thanks to that I have a more open-minded perspective, and when people tell me about their culture, it's not like I'm like disgusted or grossed out, or I don't have you know a like I don't have an initial thought about it, and I don't have a stereotype in some ways. So eventually, I accept it for what it is, and I'm always willing to try it out because I know that every time since I was born, there was something new that showed up, and I got to try it out, and then it always went against my thoughts. Because when you look at kimchi, it's vegetables, and I used to hate kimchi.
Me
And
too.
I live in France, and so I love French food. And then when I tried kimchi, I was like, dude, I hate vegetables. Don't get me wrong, I'm Asian, but I hate vegetables, and kimchi is not looking right to me. I tried kimchi, and then I was like, dude, kimchi is amazing. And a lot of things that happened multiple times. So that's why now I know that different cultures, they have amazing stuff, and it's
You
like
know,
more open minded.
when I see you, I can imagine that. Like, I can imagine you like saying, "Ugh, kimchi."
It's so funny because no Korean sees kimchi as vegetables.
I'm sorry. That says it all. I'm half Korean, but I see it as a vegetable, dude, for sure.
He's like, kimchi vegetable. I'm like, that is not like it is technically, but all the sodium and no.
Wait, Sandy, I have a
You
question for you.
Mm-hmm.
So when you were raised, or with the people you grew up with, and how you were, just pretty much you were embarrassed, right, being
Mm-hmm.
Asian and all that. Did that affect you when there's international students coming into your school? How did you feel about them?
I didn't see any international students come into my school until like high school.
Oh, okay.
Because first, like, I went to a gate middle school, and I don't know if you guys know what gate is. But it's pretty much like a middle school specifically for like smart kids. And so you had to like get in like through some type of lottery system. Um, but
It's like a Willy Wonka thing.
but anyways, yeah, I didn't experience international students until like high school, and I actually went to prom with the international student. He was when I talked to him, he was like confused about like the American culture because it was like something he was not used to. Um, so that was fun.
That's very interesting.
I'm surprised by like Brandon or even Flo because you guys are international and you came here like in high school, but your guys' English is so good. Like I remember when I first came to the US, I didn't know how to speak English.
I was trained by my mother. Shout out, Tess. Just kidding. Love you, mom.
I came to the U.S. in college, but I learned
Ooh,
mainly in middle school, just from people around. I guess my friends. Eventually, I
Yeah.
think if it's all about environments, just as I mentioned earlier, and if your entire environment is speaking English, you're forced to learn English, and so you
Mhm.
pick up from what you hear, and then I guess that's how I got it. And I'm
Mm.
assuming that's what Brandon did too, as well.
yeah, I feel like, well, obviously I had a Singaporean accent, so like when I talk like this, so it's very hard for me to understand.
What's up,
Yeah,
La?
Yeah.
that
What point did you like stop like having that Singaporean accent?
I think it just depends on what if I go back to Asia, that's when my accent starts coming out. But I definitely did feel embarrassed at first because everyone's like, "What'd you say? What'd you say?" And I keep on
Wait,
saying a lot, so I
but
was just like, "Oh."
but what's mind blowing is you can control your accent, can't you?
I feel like, yeah, sometimes. I mean, it just depends on who I'm with. So if I'm with my parents, that accent, my Indo would just come out, and then if I'm with my like you guys, I just be American.
Since we're talking about our youth, what are some things that were like important to you back then, but feel that they are not as important now? I wish I was more mischievous back then because you could get into a lot of trouble, but not actually like have like get into trouble, like legally. You know what I mean? So it's like I wish I just like pranked people a little bit more and just acted more as a child rather than like, oh, I
Really,
wanted to grow up faster.
Dang,
I was the opposite of you.
me
Like
too.
I was not afraid to die. Literally, like my
Wait,
mom would tell me I would just do like I remember we went to ski and when I was a kid I can't use the sticks because they don't have like a tall enough sticks for kids. I was still down to just go. Like I was fearless. But now as I get older, I get so scared. Like my heart drops. Everything.
I think I'm the exact same as Brandon, where I was more fearless and I didn't care about it, and I was more of a rebel, in which I wish I wasn't like that. I mean, I like the fact that I didn't give a shit about life or something, whatever. I was just doing what everyone wanted, but I wish I took life more seriously as well, more as
Yeah,
like
me too.
mature, just so that if I had been more mature back then, obviously right now I'd be way more mature, right? And just the fact that I was being more childish, enjoying life, doing stupid things, risking whatever it was, and he's sleeping on the streets and whatever. Um, all those memories are great. Don't get me wrong, but if I had been more studious and taking things more seriously, I think I could have gone further, and I would have less regrets today. That's for sure.
Mm. Was there like specific things that was like really dumb that you did? Like examples?
I luckily I was in South Korea, so no harm came to me. But just drinking into the sleep, like on the street, that's not something I would have ever wished I had done. Just because obviously that's kind of stupid.
Mm.
But it's something that I've learned from, I guess. So whatever it is, I still learn from it. But it's just the fact that there's an okay. So the biggest part of this is the fact that there's an opportunity cost. So it's not like don't get me wrong. I'm not dissatisfied that I did this because it's a great experience. I learned about it. I'm not gonna make the same mistake now. But if I wasn't that person that I was, where I would care about drinking, sleeping on the streets, and not caring about life, skiing in the fog down the fucking hill, and like breaking an arm every now and then, doing stupid things like that, if I wasn't that person, I could have been the other person who was smart, reading books, genius, learning about stocks, doing all these other things.
Um, this is something that I like. I did soup like I feel bad, but I actually broke my arm during my grandpa's funeral.
Oh.
Cause
How?
we he passed away and then we had like a ceremony like because we're Buddhist, so there was a lot of robe, like curtains, there's chanting. So one time it was taking a while of the chant and I had to use the restroom, and then my cousin was like, "Oh, me too." So I looked at him and he looked at me, we smiled, let's race. as soon as we got out of that the room, I slipped and my left hand was like I opened my eyes and this part of my hand went up. And then I was just like, oh crap. And then my dad was
Oh,
like, are you serious, dude? And then but like Flo said, like if I didn't learn from these like stupid mistakes, I mean I slipped, but at the same time, like come on man, don't fool around.
uh,
There are times for that, but I would say that's probably the one of the most embarrassing like things that happen because I can't imagine if I was my dad and my kid broke, you know, my hand, and that happens. Oh my god, I would have been like,
Wait, I was gonna say I didn't do anything dumb when I was little, but when you said embarrassed, it like came in my mind. But when I was wearing the Heelys, I was at a hotel, right? And then those rotating doors. So my cousin was going in and out with his Heelys like super quickly, right? And then I was like, that's so cool. I think I could do it too. So I tried it and my leg got stuck underneath the rotating in
Oh
the hotel. So everyone was like around me, like taking pictures. And like I was like 6 or 7. So I was like, I'm gonna die.
whoa.
Because I was like, Mom, I think I'm gonna die. Like
I can see
and
that
then
happeing.
yeah, and then the ambulance came. Oh my god, it was so embarrassing. Like
wow.
firefighters came and they literally had to like lift it up and like when I'm like, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die. So I remember I was on the ambulance, I had to go back home.
I think back in our youth, you just mentioned like how you avoided the rotating doors for a couple while, and I think it's the fact that in our youth we learned so much, and whatever was embarrassing and what is it bad, we learned so much out of it, and then we refrain from doing so in the future, right? So like I want to transition to like what my story where I learned a lot from my parents because one of my most embarrassing story or the stupidest story I've ever had was sleeping on the streets because I overdrank and I was underage.
Yeah, guys. So out of everyone, yep, it's Flo. You
No,
gotta
no,
get
no,
used to
no.
it.
Okay, y'all. I'm pretty sure y'all blacked out at places you've never really imagined. Unfortunately for me, it was in the streets. Okay, but I think um, off of that story and something because you were talking about youth, I've learned something like amazing in life. I think, which is to forgive. And
Mm,
the reason why I learned to forgive, I think, and it's really easy for me to forgive people, and I think it's because of that one moment where I blacked out on the streets. My parents were calling me. I never picked up, obviously, because I was gone. I was sleeping. But some random person picked up the phone call and called the police for me to take care of me. Then my parents came to pick me up at the location that the police officers told my parents, and I don't remember any of that. That story is from my parents. My parents told me about it. All I remember is waking up in the car. I remember them dragging me to the car, dragging me. Um, so then that moment, the remember why I remember is because I opened my eyes and the first thing I did was make eye contact with my dad. And then I was like, I'm about to get fucked. I'm about to get whooped. I'm so screwed. I don't know what I'm doing right there. So then the moment they put me in the car and they drive away, I'm like apologizing. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Like that's the thing I said for a good 5 minutes. 5 minutes is long. In that time period, 5 minutes is hella long. And I kept saying I'm sorry, and they just dragged me home. I threw up. I went to sleep. I woke up the next day. I came to my parents. I couldn't even look at them in the eyes. But the first thing they said was, and I asked them, was like, "Are you not mad at me?" And they were like, "We're not. We're fine. So whatever." And then I didn't do anything, and I was just hungover as fuck. And my parents were like, "You don't need any more punishment than you already have. I'm
yes.
just hoping that whatever you've gone through, you've learned enough from it, and like this whole thing was a lesson for you." And at that moment, I was like, "Whoa!" First of all, I was very thankful at the fact that my parents didn't whoop my ass, because sometimes they would. And second of all, I was just like, "Dang, my parents forgave me for a mistake I made," and it was very responsible for me. But I think the fact that I learned that when I was a kid is the reason why now in the present, I'm very forgiving.
Mm.
So it's a stupid mistake, embarrassing.
But you learn it.
So yeah, I think I learned so much out of it. And so, don't get me wrong. If I could go back to the past, I would do the exact same thing.
No, but my dad did the same thing as your dad. He never even got mad at me. Yeah.
Yay.
But I did feel bad. I definitely like from that I learned how to think with my own action now. Well, sometimes.
I've never had crazy stories like you guys. Like I said, like I like was a very anxious kid. I think the most embarrassing thing I did was like, running away from my mom when I got upset at her because she wouldn't like let me go to the park by myself or something. I don't remember the whole thing, but like I think I got really upset because I was like, oh, all the other kids like get to like, roam freely, and like I don't understand why I can't do it. I'm old enough. Like I was in 6th grade or something at the time. I was like, I'm old enough to like go to the park by myself, blah 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 blah. And like thinking back now, I'm just like kind of like, okay, I'm stupid. Like my mom obviously, just cared for my safety, and like coming from like being in Stockton, Stockton's not like super safe. So she just like cared about my safety, and I wish back then like I like didn't wasn't like as upset about that and stuff. But it's definitely a learning lesson. Like I realized that my mom does a lot of things for me, and I'm really grateful for her.
But see, like that's like the beautiful thing about life. That's like, have you guys ever heard of the word sonder? So sonder is the profound feeling of realizing that everyone, including strangers that pass by in the streets, has a life as complex as one's own. And they are constantly living despite one's personal lack of awareness of it. So let's just say you know that you're going through something in your life, right? And everyone has their own problems. And you may be driving in your car, and then when you see the person next to you, they are also living their own life. And it's that realization that, oh, he's also living through something. So if you can see someone who's crying, I remember this specific moment. I was in Japan in Disneyland, and I saw a guy who was on the phone because Disneyland's a happy place, and everyone's like all smiling and happy. And then I saw this guy pick up his phone, and he got so mad, and then he threw his phone, and then the girl started crying. So in my head, I was like, whoa, they're in Disneyland, but they're not getting that same reaction as me, because something must have happened. But that's what I'm saying with life. I feel that with our parents teaching us and raised us, everyone grows up differently, and there's always pros and cons to why parents do things the way they do. So this is why like I learned a lot from moving from here to the US, and I mean from Indonesia to the US, and also from parents and from friends, experiences from friends.
Have you guys ever hated something about your parents and after some time you realize that you're doing the same thing?
I mean, for me, I definitely, as now that I'm like grown up a little bit more, I see a lot of myself like that, like all the traits that my mom has, and I'm just like, oh my god, yo, like this, this is weird. Kind of didn't want to have all those traits, but then I'm like, oh, I could kind of see where she was coming from.
I definitely pick up the habits sometimes from my dad. Like when, let's just say we're at a group of friends, we're willing to just, have fun and then not think about everything. And I'm just like, why would you do that? But now I'm just like, yeah, I feel like that's still a problem for me where I don't think about consequences sometimes and just like go for it and just have fun. But yeah, I feel like we all, even though we are not aware of it, we do get that, we want to be like our parents in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe we don't, but we're just picking up their habits.
I also heard that the people that grew up with both parents and just mom and just dad, they're all different too.
But that's what inspires people sometimes, thinking about their parents or their single parents, they've also put so much effort. Even through adoption, like kids who got adopted, they've definitely learned something throughout, their life. I mean, you grew up with that person, so you're more than likely picking up their habits as well.
So
That
I want to
that
bring up the fact that I took this one course, and it was talking about to know who you are in the present, you really got to go back to your past and see
Mm.
the big moments in your life in the past. And so, as I mentioned earlier in the podcast, one of the reasons why I believe it can't be 100% sure. We will never know. We'll never know if it's true or not. But one of the biggest reasons why I believe that I'm very forgiving is because of that one moment in my life when my parents were very forgiving towards me. And so that's just an example, but like to know who you really are in the present, you really got to think about your past and those huge moments you still remember to this day. What happened then? Were you with and stuff like that? What happened? And then based off of that, you probably learned so much out of it that you're currently that person. I think that's
Mhm.
what's mind blowing, which is why youth is so important. The environment you lived in, you were born in, and who you were surrounded with is how you end up becoming in the future, unless there's something drastic that changes throughout mid crisis.
Mhm.
So technically, if we slap Flo, he'll say, "I forgive you."
Hey, don't get me wrong. If you slap me for a reason where I was wrong, obviously I'll forgive
Oh,
you.
okay, okay,
There's
yeah, that makes
people, there's
sense.
people, there's people though that if you slap them and they were wrong, they would not forgive you anyways. But if I was
That that
wrong and you slap me, then I would forgive you 100%. If you slap me because that was for fun, hey, don't get me wrong, I'll forgive you too as long as I slap you for too.
you back.
Yeah.
I have a question though. Do you know, okay, you are good at forgiving, but do you know how to be forgiven? Like that's
Ooh,
maybe one thing that you could have learned in the past if it was different. So do you struggle with like being forgiven?
Being forgiven.
Yeah. So say like your parents were actually really mad at you at the time, and then you figured out a way to be forgiven. And that's something that you could have learned too. So right now, as someone so forgiving, do you know how to be forgiven?
oof, that's a wow. That's a
that is a tough question.
The best way to be forgiven is by giving proper reasoning or excuses, as they say.
Hmm?
So if you did something wrong, no. I mean, wait. Don't you agree? Don't you agree that whatever actions you take, there's always a reason or an excuse behind it. You always do something for a reason. I'll
Oh,
apologize
okay.
100%. But depending on how bad it is or whether I think I'm right or wrong, I think your reasoning should matter. The reason why I did something for a reason. I didn't do it for nothing. I didn't do it because I wanted to fucking punch you, stuff like that, right? I punched you for that purpose. So let me tell you why I punched you, kind of thing. And then the person might be more understanding. It's like, oh, okay, you punched me because I was disrespectful to you. So now
yeah,
I understand that I can forgive you. It makes sense, kind of thing like that. You're right.
yeah. No, I mean, yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, definitely.
Mhm. Yeah, what I just wanted to say was, whatever you go through, one way or other, like there's something to learn in every situation. So just because they did something wrong, or you want to erase something from the past, maybe you got something out of it, or maybe you can get something out of it. Now that you're older, you're grown up, maybe you'll be able to understand your parents more, your friends more, and like how they felt.
So, my question for you guys is, how would you make the most of your youth? Since we're approaching our 23s, right? And 24, according to a website that I looked
We're
up,
getting
24,
old.
24 is the last age for the youths.
All right,
Um,
boys and girls, we gotta turn up. We gotta go crazy.
I'm
so
24 right
how
now.
Yeah.
Oh, so
It's
you're
my
near
last
the end
year.
of your youth. So how would you make the most of your youth?
For me, for me, to make the best out of my youth is to pass on what I've learned to younger people.
Ooh.
I've learned so much from my uncles, my aunt, from family histories that I would not want to repeat. Like one of my uncle, he has the best phrase, "Don't be stupid." Every time I go out, that's his phrase in high school before I leave. don't be stupid. And I have another uncle, don't get caught. So so it's like one's an angel, one's a devil. So like it's really like funny, like from different perspective or like from a different like thing. There's so many things you can learn, but I would definitely say whatever you learn and you can pass it on, just do it, just say it.
I
No
agree
matter.
with that. I think it's important to like make mistakes in life because you learn from them, but also be aware of the consequences of your mistakes. But I think it's in your youth you should do a lot of stupid shit. Just know your consequences.
Stupid shit, let's go.
Whatever you're gonna do in that 10 minutes, like how is it gonna affect you in that 10 years? So yeah, I definitely agree. Like when a 40-year-old or 50-year-old tell like a 10-year-old, 18-year-old, like, oh, like when I was your age, I did the same thing. We can't really relate. You're like you're an old man or you're an old woman.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. I used to hate when they say that. I was like, I remember my parents would be like, "Oh, when I was 19, blah blah blah," and I'd be like, "But you don't know me. Like, we grew up differently." And then in my head, I'm like, "Bro, I mean, she did point out some good stuff, you know."
Mhm.
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 Especially like as a 24-year-old now, like I was so different when I was 18 and it's like crazy. It's only 6 years, but honestly, like my tolerance and my energy, like everything is so different. Even from 22, like that's 2 years ago. So, yeah, just listen to people that are a little older than you. Maybe not too old, too much older because
Different
like what would you
generation,
know? Yeah,
different.
different
Yeah,
different world.
But you know what I find crazy is, wait, first of all, I find it crazy that youth is, put into up to 24. I think 21 is like youth, and then like below.
mm,
I think after 21, that's when you start getting like exhausted for the smallest things you do. But I find it
I'm so
crazy.
young.
What I think about it is like advice that's given by people. It's hard to learn from people's advice.
I agree,
Personally,
100% agree.
it's like people will always tell you things, and it's so hard to first of all understand where they're coming from. And some of the things that people give you advice on, they make so much common sense, yet you won't realize it until you personally experienced it, I think. And I feel like to conclude, what I'm trying to say is up till 21, just do whatever you want. Learn from your own mistakes, and whatever people's advice have given you, it's like it's not gonna make much sense to you unless it really relates to you. It's like advice in terms of what path you should take in the moment.
Right.
But if it's like if they're telling you like brief advice in terms of like, oh, you know what, don't take this class because it's too hard, or like you shouldn't do this because of that, you won't realize until you personally have dealt with it. I think that's how I see it. So
Think my biggest advice for people that it's end of my youth, but for people that are younger, um just go experience like just anything. It could be honestly it could be bad but not too bad, but just experience it when you were younger. My company recently had an interview with one of the film directors of Sony Pictures, and he
Ooh.
actually worked at DreamWorks as well, and he's the one that filmed like Kung Fu Panda, and there's a new movie coming out soon from Sony. And oh yeah, he was telling me how just go experience, like he never thought that like doing taekwondo or when you were younger, it helped him when he was filming Kung Fu Panda. And even like singing in karaoke and just having fun with friends like helped him to film this upcoming movie, which is about a musical. So honestly, like those little things that you think it's not gonna mean anything in the future, it could help you somehow. Even playing games, like it could help you.
and um, say yes to a lot of things when you're young. Say no to a lot of things when you're old. So say yes when you're young because you learn a lot of things. So yeah, if your mom or your parents are telling you, yo, go do piano, go do violin, go do taekwondo, go do kung fu, go do martial arts, whatever, just say yes to everything, because you know what, you're learning in the moment. And then when you're old, when people are asking you to go, hey, let's go get a drink, let's go do this, let's go start this business, let's go do whatever, say no to most of the things and only say yes to a couple things, because now you're prioritizing. When you're young, you want to be open to learning new things. When you're old, you want to start saying no to things because you want to prioritize what's more important to you. I think that was the biggest things that I've heard, where it was, when you're getting old, the more you say no is, or you're doing the right things when you say no more often than you say yes. And that's 100% true. Because if you're saying yes to everything when you're old, that means you're just not doing the right things. You're not doing what you're supposed to be prioritizing in the first place.
Ooh, that's some like deep talk shit, man.
So that concludes our podcast for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for tuning in, viewers.
And like we said, we have a Discord community now, and we hope that you can hop on it. Just join just to say hi. We would definitely appreciate that. And also follow us on Instagram at Yes String Along. And, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We definitely will post weekly, and we have more challenges and everything that's going to come up soon. And we're very excited for that. Whoa.